Well, I want to read you this next story. I think you're both wrong. I think Dogecoin is incredible. I think Dogecoin is... No, you're incorrect.
It's Dogecoin.
You want to know why you're wrong?
Dogecoin.
Dogecoin has just made a bunch of people who don't pay attention. And if in the end they trade Dogecoin for Bitcoin, it's better, isn't it?
No,
you don't think the attention is
I've been in this
generating?
business for 10 years, and no one knows more about it than I do. And it's a gateway drug to getting wrecked. So people think that they are smart enough to trade altcoins in a way that they're going to get more Bitcoin, or they're just going to be in it for a minute. But the fact is that once you step away from Bitcoin, you're entering the gambling casino. Right. So it's the same. If ever you go to Vegas and you go across the room with all the slot machines and you ask 100 people how if they're winners in Vegas, the 100 people say, yeah, I win all the time. I'm a big winner. They're sitting there with smoking a cigar, with threadbare, with nothing on their back. And they're like, I've been winning in this for years and years. Because the gambling mentality is such. You convince yourself that you're going to win at this gambling thing. So that's number one.
But I do.
And number two, the projects themselves suck. They're all centralized garbage. Bitcoin is decentralized. It's a big difference. And you can't compare the two. It is.
I'm not saying Dogecoin technologically or their infrastructure, their code. I'm saying a bunch of regular people, young people who had no interest at all in any capacity with cryptocurrency. All of a sudden now the door was opened to at least walking into the room. And if at the end of it, 10% of the people or 1% of those people who normally would never be involved are like, I'm going to buy Bitcoin with it because that's the real asset. So they bought some Dogecoin as a joke. It went up. They went, whoa, they sold it. Then they, got Bitcoin instead. Isn't it better that people are at least understanding
Bitcoin is the house and everybody else are the chumps on the floor. So I own Bitcoin. If somebody wants to go into the speculative world of gambling on Dogecoins, and ultimately all that capital, the size of the market is expanding, right? So it's a 2 trillion plus. And that means that ultimately more money will flow into Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes through cycles, and right now it's going sideways and it's building a base, and then it'll make a big leap again. And then you'll see a rotation out of all these altcoins into Bitcoin. And a lot of people will get wrecked. And also when you're trading in those altcoins, there's all kinds of tax liabilities you have to be aware of.
Absolutely.
It's not worth it instead of just hodl.
No,
That's what my shirt says, buddy. Hodl. Hodl, baby. That's what it's all about. Don't make me get undressed, Tim. Don't make me get naked on your show.
Please don't get undressed. I'm not saying Dogecoin is better than Bitcoin. I'm saying Dogecoin as a marketing campaign got a bunch of people to finally know what crypto was.
They're going to get wrecked. So people who bought it last week on the, Elon Musk on Saturday Night Live at 72 or 74 cents a coin, they're sitting on 30 or 40% losses today. And they're wondering, what the heck am I going to do? It's going to scare a lot of people out. You enter into the arithmetic of losing. The amount of percent gain you need to break even once you lose 10% is more than 10%.
Right.
So, what happens is you tend to trade riskier projects, as is today. There's another coin that's a dog coin, right?
Shiba Inu token.
So now that had a rally today. So a lot of people who lost 30% on Doge in the last week are going to be, I'm going to make it back on this other thing, which is even more ridiculously.
Well, so
they end up with zero.
Let me ask you about Bitcoin though. If for one, there's a finite amount of Bitcoin. They're not going to complete the 21 million coins until when? Do you know what year?
Another 100 years.
Another 100 years.
Yeah.
So If look, I was talking with some of the people here at Timcast earlier, and one of the suggestions was like, why don't you do a video where you buy something big with Bitcoin? And I was like, because I'd rather have the Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. Why would I give it up for anything? Tesla says you can buy a Tesla with a Bitcoin. I'm like, I'd rather have the Bitcoin. It's like, why would I spend $1 million on a $50,000 car?
Yeah, no.
Bitcoin's going to hit $1 million.
Yeah,
and I think it's going to be a lot faster than most people realize. So I guess the challenge is right now, should people should hypothetical people who are working just be buying as much Bitcoin as possible, but keeping some of the fiat for regular use, rent, food? Because you don't want to spend the Bitcoin. You want it for later,
right?
Right.
That's right.
At what point are you like, okay, now I can spend Bitcoin?
When it becomes a greater parity to gold. So gold's worth about $10 trillion, let's call it. Bitcoin's worth around $1 trillion or so. When you see Bitcoin trading at parity to gold at around 500,000 a coin or $10 trillion worth, then I think it'll be transitioned from the pure only store of value to store of value and medium of exchange. It's not really a medium of exchange as such, although on what's called the second layer with Lightning and other applications built on top. People are using it as for transactions every single day. And a lot of people who do transact in Bitcoin that might spend Bitcoin, let's say $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, they'll immediately buy 1,000 to replenish that. Right. A lot of people, the most intelligent thing you can do is dollar cost averaging, which is just every single day or every week or every month, you simply put in $10, $100 or $1,000 into Bitcoin on a regular basis. We work with, I think Swan Bitcoin is a company that specializes in this, and we work with them pretty closely.
I got an email from somebody who has was a wealthy individual who had a trust, like a wealthy family, and they were talking to their financial manager or whatever, saying we need to start putting our assets into Bitcoin, and they said absolutely not, we won't do that. Yeah. And so the email I got was like very upset, like what are we supposed to do?
Well, that's understandable. The entrenched, the establishment in these markets don't want the competition, and they don't want people taking money out, because once a lot of people understand that, the saying goes, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. You take the keys off these exchanges and these products, and so you're taking money out of the system. So if you're somebody whose business is accumulating assets under management, AUM, and that's a negative for you, because people are taking all their assets off and they're putting into cold storage. And so that's they don't want that competitive thing going on. And the amount of money made on selling products is enormous, and this is there's no fees attached. It's free to store, essentially. So they don't want the competition, but that is changing quite rapidly. As Paul Tudor Jones, very famous hedge fund manager, said, he believes inflation is here, and he owns a lot of gold, but he says Bitcoin is the fastest horse in the race.
How long until you think Bitcoin reaches 500,000?
Well, I've got a price target for 2021 of 220,000 per coin.
Why? Where's that number
based on the halvings that we've had every 4 years? We've had 3 halvings, and typically you see these types of price moves in the year.
You can track a pattern.
That's cyclically what we see.
What's the halving?
So 1 second. Has the price tracked as you've predicted it thus far? Because I know
the first quarter it did very, very well. Now it's kind of going sideways, and I think we're going to see in the second quarter another breakout move to 70, 80, 85,000.
So I've known you guys for a decade, and I told you the story of Bitcoin back in 2011. I was at a hackerspace in LA. It was called Crash Space. I was hanging with my friend Jeff, and we're sitting at my computer. I had savings. I had about $5,000 in savings. I had worked. I had saved it. I'm never going to touch it. It's my rainy day fund. It's like, I'm very proud. I was, was I 24 or something? And I said, I saw Bitcoin. So the Bitcoin faucet. For those that aren't familiar, there's a website that literally just gave you free Bitcoin. It was 0.05, I believe. Could be wrong. Just randomly, like, there you go. Here's some. Because it was almost worthless. So I look at my friend and I'm like, should I just buy a bunch of this Bitcoin thing? Because I'm just saving this money. It's sitting in the bank. I got to pay fees or whatever. Why don't I just buy this Bitcoin? And he goes, nah, dude. Like, it's probably a scam. You're going to buy it off some dude, and then it's going to become worthless. And I was like, yeah, I guess not. And so I was actually, no joke, sitting there about to buy like 7,300, Bitcoin at 70 cents. And then I remember when it went up to $5, and I was like, oh man, remember when Jeff, when you told me not to buy it, then it hit $20, same story. Then it hit 500, same story. Yeah. And what's funny is, so I remember when you guys were promoting Bitcoin like crazy, and I was just watching it like, but now it's at, $5. If only I had bought was $1. Now it's at $60,000, and I'm like, why didn't I listen to Max?
Well, that story is the exact same story that Peter Schiff has experienced.
Yeah, but he's still not buying,
I told him at $1. I told him at $10. I told him at $100. I told him at $1,000. Told him at $10,000, and he still won't buy it. He's still anti-Bitcoin. He's still saying the same silly things over and over again. So
I have been.
Common story.
I was buying though. So what I'm like, man, I should have bought. I'll buy some. I'll buy a little bit, but I never went gung ho. I never went full in. I just bought a little bit here and there. Like, well, I'll just have some.
Yeah, well, it's never too late. It's going to continue to go up. On this financial advice question, it's like we're setting the table. We're saying, look, here's inflation. Here's your options. Here's what people are saying. And make your own choices. Do your own research. But it's a very compelling story. And given that what the track record has been, and nothing we've said that would happen hasn't happened. Pretty much, we've been absolutely spot on in predicting the last 10 years pretty much every major turn in the global economy.
I'm definitely going to be buying more Bitcoin. But Bitcoin? What do you think about Ethereum, though?
It's centralized garbage.
You don't like Ethereum?
It's shit. Oh.
Nah, it's fine. Well, so I'm not going to pretend that Ethereum is the same thing as Bitcoin. I think
No, it's centralized. The transactions are reversible. They've reversed transactions before. 60% pre-mine it's an exit scam where Vitalik and those guys are just dumping coins whenever they feel like it.
Wow.
It's not robust at all. It's buggy. It's never been. No one knows how many exist. If you say, well, you can't run a node.
What is it?
Ethereum.
Exactly. What is it? Like, what's the point of it?
So there's applications run off of it using ERC20 tokens. So
why not use Microsoft? Why not use AWS? Yeah, all of the nobody can run a node. It costs too much. It's all hosted on AWS.
That's true. Yeah.
So you can shut it down.
Do you think AWS is going to listen, to Vitalik Buterin, or are they going to listen to the Treasury if the Treasury contacts them?
No, I agree. So I think I view Ethereum as very, very different from Bitcoin, as more of like an investment into a company. As opposed to Bitcoin,
there are a lot better companies then to invest in.
But if you're,
I don't know, the returns have been
But if your
ridiculously
objective
good.
is to everything that Bitcoin offers, and as we discussed about it, and that's your objective, there's Bitcoin. If you want to get involved in something called Ethereum, which is some software that is buggy and it's centralized and it has a track record of malfeasance, that's an option people
I want to be
make.
Medici. I want to be my own bank. I want to be the central bank. I want to have my own country within me. And I don't, Ethereum doesn't give that. No other coin gives that. Just Bitcoin.
But
I'm not saying
you create your own.
Are you saying you've invested in nothing other than Bitcoin?
That's all we do.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
You guys should create your own coins.
No, you can't.
Stocks?
Like as soon as there's an individual who can be identified, and that person can then take the coin down. The Treasury contacts you.
I think
it's centralized.
I think the future of currency is like you make Max coin, Stacy coin, Ian coin, Tim coin.
No,
and
it's not.
Well, hear me out.
No, I had a question I asked that
good.
You guys are not investing in anything outside of Bitcoin, like stocks?
No, we have Bitcoin. We have invested in Bitcoin startups, like for example, Kraken, which is an exchange. When it was $5 million, we invested in it. It's now worth $10 billion.
SwanBitcoin.com/orange pill. We find
Swan
we
Bitcoin?
we finance them. Or
But
investors in them.
no like regular stocks of like blue chips or like 500s or anything.
No, because there's a couple of interesting companies that are Bitcoin related. So MicroStrategy has a big Bitcoin position. Square, which is Jack Dorsey's company, is really on the Bitcoin vanguard. So I have positions. I have small positions in these companies that have Bitcoin related investments.
In what year was it? Was it 2012? I was hanging out with you guys, and I was filming for some show, and you were filming some rich guy, and he was like, "You got to buy Square," and Square's like $13.
Yeah.
And so I was mostly broke, and I was like, "All right, I'll buy some," and I did not regret it.
Oh,
Right.
good.
So
good,
I tell these stories about how I wish I bought Bitcoin, but the reality is just standing next to you guys, hearing you guys talk about Square,
Right.
And then when
and Square's up a lot.
especially from back then.
Square's huge. Yeah.
So for those that are familiar with when I went on the Joe Rogan podcast with Jack Dorsey, I said before we start the show, like I should do a disclaimer that I own some shares in Square, not that much, like very very little, because I was broke when I bought into it.
Yeah.
But now it's like,
Yeah, it's well, we have some gold and silver from our gold and silver days, but we use it as collateral to buy Bitcoin.
wow.
So it's,
what do you mean collateral? Like taking out loans to buy Bitcoin?
Yeah. I use it as collateral.
I just did that.
That's
That
a good.
was awesome.
That's the way wealthy people do it, right? You don't want to pay taxes because as soon as you sell anything, you have to do your capital gains.
Yeah, we started buying
But if
gold at the 400 range.
If you borrow against,
So you go to a bank. What do? You say like, hey, I want $100,000 to buy Bitcoin, then you buy Bitcoin in a month
no,
later.
you go to a bank.
Yeah,
Yeah, you put up
yeah.
your gold and silver as collateral, and you take out a loan.
So then a month later, because Bitcoin's just skyrocketing, you just pay back the loan, and then you got free Bitcoin.
you pay it back out of your earnings, like whatever, so you don't have to pay the capital gains, right?
On BlockFi, you can put crypto up as collateral.
Yeah. It's a
do,
huge
yeah.
market, but you do have to give up your keys.
Yeah,
when you
give
do
up your
that.
keys.
So-
So it's not worth it. Don't go to BlockFi.
If dollars are going down
Yeah.
and we're like, man, this is bad, and Bitcoin is going up, this is great.
Yeah.
And you can go to a bank and they'll say, we will give you the dollars to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
I'm not telling anybody to do anything.
Gold and silver are going up, and so is the Bitcoin. Right?
Wow.
So my collateral is going up as well as
What
my
about property, though? Property's good, right?
property is a sitting duck because you have property taxes, which are going
Right.
to go up. And you can't, and it's also not very, I think
It's
there's
not
going to be,
liquid
it's not
during-
liquid.
during
and when,
bad times.
when you have what I think is going to be a very troubling time, and you need to move and leave, let's say, the country, for example, you can't really take your property, but you can take your Bitcoin. You just need memorize a seed phrase, and you can go through the airport naked, and you can have any amount of Bitcoin wealth with you.
But it's I mean, you want to have, you don't want to just only have Bitcoin, right? You want to have other things, I'd imagine. Like you want to maybe focus heavily on Bitcoin, but I'd imagine.
Well, what happened over the last 10 years is that since the price went from $1 to 55,000, it has now become dwarfed everything else in the portfolio.
We invest in yourself. That's the best thing
Absolutely.
to do.
That's
That's
what I do.
like better than any stocks or whatever, because you know, as you see,
Oh,
like
and
somebody
bullets.
like Biden can come along and say, okay, capital gains is not 20%, it's going to be 43%, and you're like, dude,
I heard-
like
Exactly.
I heard a great quote earlier today, though. They said when it all hits the fan and a Bitcoin is worth $1 million,
Yeah.
do you know how many bullets it would cost to get $1 million in Bitcoin? One.
Right, not necessarily, not with a multi-sig wallet. So if you have a multi-sig wallet in cold storage, then no amount of bullets can get your Bitcoin. So
Yeah. But you
we
get the
use,
point. You know,
Well, the famous $5 wrench attack, as it's called.
the $5 wrench attack.
Yeah. So, but that's that. But I would say in an extremis, Bitcoin is probably the most secure because gold and silver can easily be confiscated by the government or stolen, and it's tough to insure and keep in a vault. Then you have your house can be taken away, as the houses have been taken away.
Yeah.
Fiat money can be canceled. Once you put money in the bank, you know, technically it's owned by the bank. You don't own it anymore, right? So
And
that can be confiscated.
unless they can read your mind.
Right. So with Bitcoin, it's actually in a total breakdown. It's the only form of wealth which is actually secure.
how about all the money that police steal across America?
Oh,
What's
So
it-
it's,
Civil
And
assets.
people always
Civil
say,
asset
"Oh, what if
forfeiture.
electricity goes down?" Well, actually, now Bitcoin is being beamed via satellite from Blockstream, so you don't
So
even need the electrical grid to be working.
you can set up a Bitcoin password that's just like a regular old password you remember, right?
You can do, yeah,
So you can create a phrase that's really easy for you to remember, but really hard for a computer to crack.
like a 12 to 24 word phrase.
Yeah. So I always tell people like good passwords are just like a song lyric or something, or just a sentence.
Usually, you get a random word generator, which you can find online, and they just generate random words.
But that's not better than.
It can be because I believe in the security business.
the best place to go for information about that is called bitcoin.page, and that is run by Jameson Lopp, and he's like one of the top security experts in the space. So, you know, I wouldn't take your security advice from from us right now. I would go to the top guy, Jameson Lopp, bitcoin.page, and it has all the security stuff, how to create the best passphrases and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.